All right. We've gotten over our internet issues, hopefully. Welcome back again to Conversations on the Socials with Bern, a very, very, very special person to me who helped me in a time when I really needed to help my mum's end of life wishes come true. Bern, I actually can say that I do love you.
Oh.
And you're so special to me. And I'm part of Conversation on the Socials with all of the ladies from the Newcastle Compassionate Communities Committee that we've pulled together is all about, from my perspective, is getting the information out there for people to understand that there are options in end of life. It doesn't have to be the standard kind of morgue, funeral home, blah, 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 that there are options. There are people out there who can help you make that happen. And that is where I want people to hear about you and your very special set of skills, Bern. So can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do? Again, sorry.
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess probably like many of us in the world, I wear a few different hats, particularly within this realm of end of life and after death. I think there's probably two spaces that I just really love, and I think that I am most drawn to. And they are to care for people, so in that sort of carer role at the very end of life and after death. And the other one that you were just referring to, Katrina, which was, I guess, how we ended up meeting and being in each other's lives, is, I guess, what is often phrased a home vigil. And what that means is, and I guess this is where we're both passionate about making sure that people understand that this really is an option, is in those times when you're heartbroken and you have had to say goodbye to someone that you love, whether that be by sudden and unexpected death or via, a terminal process. There is always the option to bring your person back home. And I guess this one's a real passion piece for me, because I know that it's not very well, there's not a lot of awareness around it in our community.
Yeah.
And also there aren't lots of people that I guess have been trained or have the skills to do it. By no means do I want to say that I'm an expert. I don't think that anyone is an expert in end of life or death. However, I do have some experience in that field, and I guess I bring with me, I often see it as a bit of a bridge. So, if it's a really intensely personal time and personal choice, if members of the family want to be with their person after they've taken their final exhale. But if they do, it can be incredibly beautiful. And I believe that it can reshape the grief journey after that, which is something that I'm also quite passionate about.
Yes, as am I now too. Thank you very much.
Mm.
I mean, I know why we did the vigil. And that was because Mum and I both have this we'd already had a lot of conversations about end of life, because I'd had cancer, and also Mum she's kind of been like a incidental doula herself. She'd doulaed a lot of her family members. So she was pretty switched on to this kind of concept that life was impermanent, and she wanted to, be prepared for that and have us prepared for that. So thank you, Mum. But we also kind of believe that we have this belief that the spirit and the body needs time to get used to the new normal of the body not working in the same way anymore. So that's why we did the vigil. Unbeknownst to me, I did not realize the power of that time that I was going to have with her and the things that were going to happen. And if anybody comes to the Death Over Drinks event that we'll talk about later in October and wants to ask me about it, I'm talking supernatural things that happened that cannot be explained.
I just got the tingles remembering you sharing one of those moments with me. Yeah.
So mind-boggling. So I was just wondering, from your perspective, you've got such a unique skill set. and set of experiences. Why would other people choose to vigil, do you think? Are there lots of different reasons or anything?
Look, I can only speak to the families who I have supported, and I think the reasons are varied. I spend a fair bit of my time in the Northern Rivers, working for a beautiful funeral home up there called Paperbark Death Care and Funerals. And I have to say, my home and where I am right now is in Newcastle. And I do experience differences within the way often that we, I don't want to say the way that we live, that sounds quite dramatic, but I think there's a bit of a different cultural awareness and practices around death and grief I have found in the Northern Rivers versus here. And so I guess when I refer to the Northern Rivers families that I've supported, there is a lot more acceptance and wanting to just spend time with their person, whether the death be unexpected or not. I think the act of the final act of tending to their person and possibly, you know, washing, dressing, anointing, or it could simply just to light a candle, if that's what speaks to you. I had a beautiful family last week that brought in, it was a young woman's mum who had died. She brought in her mum's favourite deck of cards and pulled a card and sent that with her. And, you know, and the act of physically wrapping, you know, we often say to wrap in love, to wrap in a sheet or a shroud or anything that just is meaningful, or not. It can be, you know, it can be anything, a piece of fabric, whatever it is. So we get different reasons. I know for children, and I know that this could seem a little bit divisive, what I'm about to say, because I know that some people really believe that children should be sheltered from death and grief. In my experience, I have found that children are far better at grief than us adults probably will ever be. And I think that, and I have seen children just beautifully, naturally navigate death. And I have a personal belief that the more that we are able to just speak honestly and include children in the natural processes of what happens after life, which is death, the more positive that then their grief and their life will be surrounding that. And it will no longer be, I guess, I don't really like the word taboo, but it will no longer be that unspoken part of our world. We introduce kids. So, I mean, again, recently there was a beautiful man that unfortunately had suddenly died. So his wife and 2 children came and actually they wanted to take things really slowly. So they actually visited their dad once a week for a number of weeks, and the dad's body was just in the holding room. Whereas the other way to do it is sort of like what you and your amazing family did, Katrina, and that is to have your loved one at home. In New South Wales, legally, you can have a person at home for 5 days without seeking additional sort of permission from New South Wales Health. Often the sweet spot that a lot of families sort of, I guess, feel good about is about 3 days or 3 nights, 4 days. And I guess, look, it seems to me that people either, once you let people know that this is an option, they either go, oh, I absolutely need to spend time with my person, or they say, you know what, we're okay without.
And what do people like? What do people need to know about vigiling at home? Like, if you were to decide, okay, I want to bring my person home, what do they need to know? I mean, I know I had a lot of fears around, I didn't know how to move her. I didn't know whether it was legal for me to move her from the hospital to the home, and who would do that. I didn't know how to get her into the house. I didn't know how to get her out of the house. I didn't know how to look after her, you know, her changing body. I was scared of that. And that was so, I don't know if I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own, I don't think. So what do people need to know?
All right. Well, I guess, look, so, you know, I personally, I'm a trained end-of-life doula. or death doula, as it's often termed. But I also, as just mentioned, I also have, I guess where I've gotten my experience is working for a beautiful funeral home. So there will be some funeral homes that actually offer this service, depending where you live and the options available. Otherwise, you could reach out. There are a number of end-of-life or death doulas that would be trained in this. You could reach out to them because, again, it's not something that, you know, I like to think that someone like me is a very just gentle guide to really help Katrina with what you said, the logistics, paperwork, to make sure, you know, that legally, you know, we know where that body is, and to make sure that we're exceptionally clear with the family about what they're going to experience in terms of the various stages of the body, and to make sure that we tend to that body well. So I guess often there's basically 3 ways to keep a body cool. And that is Techni ice, a cold plate, or a cooling blanket. And I know that here in Newcastle, we have access to all of those via sort of various people. I'm someone that always has Techni ice in my freezer, so that, you know, I had the heartbreaking privilege of supporting a really young couple recently with their bub, and they were able to take their little bubba home to be with him prior to his burial. So I guess, you know, someone like me, I guess I'm always slightly prepared, even though you'll never really, you know, I guess I'm prepared to support people in whatever environment's needed. The other things to think about, I think, are where in the home do you picture your person being? So, you know, some people like to have their person sort of put in their living space. So if it is going to be more of a community or family sort of environment where it's a little bit of an open door policy, and they know that lots of people are going to come, spend time, vigil, have lunch, cheers, drinks, sing songs, do whatever is meaningful to that family. Just even being in the lounge room is okay. I mean, I have set up vigils on like dining room tables, you know, as much as this might sound a bit left of center and pretty odd to some people, I can guarantee you that if this concept speaks to you, I can't tell you how, I guess, normalizing it feels when it is set up. To be even placed just back in your own bed is really beautiful as well. And that can often allow the family to actually come and just be with and lie down with your loved one. And as you spoke about, Katrina, in terms of the logistics, this is where, you know, you really do need sort of a funeral home to support with collecting your person from the hospital, if that is where they are. But again, if your loved one has died at home, then you don't need the funeral director immediately. You can just get someone like myself in. We can set up and make sure that that the vigil can happen from there.
So someone once said to me, the first thing you should do if someone passes away is to put the kettle on. Do you think that's right?
100%.
Like there's no rush, is there? Doesn't matter where they've passed away. There's no rush.
There is. The only time I would say that there is a rush is if potentially it's a what do you say? Like it's an unexpected death, and like if there's a chance, obviously, that the person is still breathing. Yes, of course, you're on the phone to the ambulance. Or if you think that there's something suspicious, well, then you're on the phone to the ambulance and the police. Yes. But no, if it is in any way, any typical situation, Katrina, I always say the first thing you do is you make yourself a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And I think even that, I think, you know, because we don't talk about end of life and death a lot, death is not an emergency. And I think as humans, and when we're not well informed, we go, oh, even if it's almost been what's called an expected death at home, either because someone is elderly or someone has been terminal. When we notice that final breath has been taken, if you aren't overly well informed, you might go, oh, I can see that there's no longer any more breaths. I've got to call someone and let them know. And now again, if you feel to do that, of course, but I guess know that you do not need to. Within New South Wales, a death needs to be certified within 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone official needs to sign something.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours, unless
Yes.
it's suspicious or
absolutely. But if it's an expected death at home, of which that's actually the name of the form, expected death at home. So it's sort of, I guess, it is sort of a medical form. And that's something that, you know, again, if you are either elderly or suffering from something terminal, either palliative care or your GP will get that form ready for you. And that's something you just have in the top drawer. And then what happens is, if your GP is someone that would come and do a home visit, when your person does take their final exhale, and you let that GP know. Otherwise, you call the ambulance and they come and fill out the other piece of paper. And then at that point, when you're ready, is when you would call the funeral home or make other arrangements.
Okay. So if an ambulance comes, they have to take them away? Is that the no. Okay. All right. So but if you've got somebody there, I mean, this is just only from my experience, not being an end of life person at all. You know, I'm thinking of more than one scenario. You are so overwhelmed. If someone said, no, you can't do that, you wouldn't. I mean, I certainly wasn't in any frame of mind to be arguing with anyone about anything. So yeah, having access to you guys or people that could say, well, actually, that's not, you know, we do have options, is so helpful. And the heaviness that I feel for the ones that I didn't have the time with is exponentially traumatic compared to the lightness that I feel about the time that I had with Mum. Yeah. Lightness in that it's obviously incredibly painful and I'm buckled with grief quite frequently, but it's just not the same. And it's not the same. It's so much more beneficial for the young people involved, like the children, my daughter and I just cannot rave on about it enough. The fact that they had time to see her, that I brought her home, and then they got to decorate her casket with all the glitter, and then they were just, you know, and other kids too that didn't really know her that well were coming to visit. By the end of it, they were just coming in and out of the room, painting her nails, and, you know, there was nothing scary, nothing other than the sadness about it. Yeah.
Of course. And again, what a beautiful example of normalizing what used to be just our ritual around death. I mean, if we look back to the history, which isn't that far removed from us, you know, death was sort of women's work, and, you know, there would be sort of people within a community that would always have just been the people that would tend to those who needed it, you know, once he died, and that everybody would either choose to sit around a vigil or not with their people, whatever spoke to them. And, you know, and I guess, really what we're doing here is nothing new. We are reclaiming old traditions.
Yeah, so beautifully put. Wonderful. Yeah. So, the other thing I wanted to touch on too was that you mentioned before, which is an incredibly challenging topic, but having been also a bereaved parent myself, but I guess under most circumstances, would you say that if you were in the horrible situation where your person or your child has died and you get to this point where you have to hand them over to a funeral director or a morgue, that you need to know that you don't have to do that, that in most cases you can find someone who can help you to bring them home if that's what calls to you?
Yeah, in most cases. And I say that simply because, you know, so if a little bub was to die in hospital, most hospitals, and again, most in New South Wales now, would have what's called a cuddle cot. and that is what keeps the little baby's body temperature lowered and at a point where that body is really going to stay beautifully intact enough for the parents to just, or their, the baby's loved ones, to spend some time.
Yeah.
Often hospitals will provide that service. If they're not able to, I guess again, or if they're not able to, and or the family also wants a little bit more time in their own home, then absolutely, that's where these services of people like myself, of which there are many, can come into play and provide, again, either a cuddle cot, Techni ice, a cooling blanket, whatever is required. And, sometimes, that gorgeous young couple who I said I played a very small role in supporting recently, but, in that situation, they were able to say goodbye to their little boy in the hospital. And all they wanted was to show him what would have been his home, give him a cuddle, and just be with him for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And they said that for them, that's what they needed, and that was perfect for them. Whereas other families would like to have their little one at home, possibly for a sleepover or a couple of nights, and that's also okay. Yeah.
Yeah, great. What a beautiful, beautiful offering you bring to the world, Bernadette. How did you end up in this work?
I'm not sure if I'm even still sure of that. I think, I don't know. I think the only thing I can put it down to is my favorite person. I've got a lot of favorite people in my life, but my absolute favorite person was my grandmother. And I had the sincere privilege and honor of caring for her at her end of life. Talk about living the natural order of things. My Ollie was 98 and a half when she took her final breath.
Wow.
So, in her words, had an exceptional innings. So, I didn't experience the grief and loss that was that she died too young or it was sudden and, any of those things. It was just pure love. And I guess being able to physically be her carer before life, and what I didn't realise, other things that we're talking about today, I didn't realise that I could just have a cup of tea. When that moment happened, I didn't realise all of the other ways that I could have honoured her. Now, again, I don't hold any regret for any of that, but I thank my amazing grandmother for showing me and I guess making me go into this deep rabbit hole and 5 years later come out the other side going, wow, there are 2 magnificent transitions in our lives, birth and death. And if I could be the smallest level of support to anyone, either to create awareness or to physically be a gentle guide to help either someone's grief journey or just to honour their loved one that little bit more, it just fills me with all of the things. So I don't know. I guess that's how I came into it.
It's so, there's so much potential for love and growth and divinity and connection. And I remember even just, all of the family is here. We're in Vigils, so some people are sleeping on the lounge and some people are camped in vans at the front, and everyone's having a fire and a laugh and a drink. And I suddenly got overwhelmed with this rage. She's not here. This isn't right. So I could just go into the room and sit with her instead. And that was just so powerful. Because we had her in her bedroom because she wouldn't have liked a big fuss. She wouldn't have liked to have been on display, so to speak. Which
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, it did cause a few logistical issues, and I don't want to be crass in any way for anybody out there listening, but the logistics of getting her in the room and having to get around corners and like there was an opportunity for a few laughs and then on the way out as well. And then, that's also something to consider. We never even had to go anywhere but home. We went straight from home to cremation and cremation back to home, and then we did a memorial. There was no need for, I felt like we're all very involved in all of that, thanks to you guys. So.
And that's the thing, and I think, you know, that leads in, and I'm sure that other people that you're going to speak to in this series, Katrina, will follow this up far more than I will. But what I'm really passionate about is letting people know that they don't have to follow what we think or what we've been told is the standard formula for when someone dies. So, and, you know, again, I've had the honor of supporting someone recently at the other, you know, I mean, in this last month, I guess the two scenarios that I've been most involved with was the little baby I mentioned and a beautiful woman, 94 and a half. So I guess it's both ends of the scale.
Two ends of the spectrum, yeah.
Yeah, and the relief that this beautiful woman's daughters took when I let them know that there was some real hesitation around, I guess, a funeral or a farewell or similar.
Mm.
And when I just simply let them know that it's not a requirement. You know, you don't have to, there's no formula, there's no set thing that anybody has to do. And sometimes sitting around with her favorite drink or a cup of tea and scones in your living room or in your back garden or at a lovely restaurant is all like, that could be far more fitting for someone to honor and celebrate their life and reflect than going to a chapel or a funeral home or a cemetery. You know, again, those things are beautiful if they speak to you and honoring your person, but you never feel like you have to do anything that you don't want to do and that doesn't speak to you.
Yes, that's right. And yes, thank you for informing me also of that in this process, as we didn't have a funeral. We actually, strangely enough, had a holiday booked with Mum for the whole family to go to, and we all went and did that. And then when we came back, we organised a memorial for a month later where we spread the ashes. And we just did it all ourselves. We just invited everyone and it just happened very organically and whatever. So, and she would have loved that. Yeah.
And that's the other beautiful part. It's sort of like continue to breathe, continue to have cups of tea or a beer or whatever it is that you have, because nowhere in this process should you feel rushed. And I think that's the other thing that we've become a little bit used to, you know, with funeral directors and funeral homes. And this isn't any disrespect to them. It's just that, you know, they need to follow a certain formula and a certain timeline, which is really helpful for a lot of families.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't speak to you, you can be on your own timeline. And like you just said, you know, you held your mum's memorial, almost a month or two later?
Yeah, I think it might have been even 2 months later. Yeah.
Right. And, you know, and that felt right to your family. So I guess it's, remember that, you don't have to buy into a timeline or what you should do. As we all know, you should never should yourself or anyone else, and definitely not when it comes to death and end of life and honoring someone that you love.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking too is that, I mean, our family was all, well, most of us, we were all on board because this is what Mum wanted. But are there challenges for some families that come up where not everybody's on board with this idea of vigil? And what kind of advice do you give then if you've got some family members that are like, I think she really would have wanted this, or he, and others saying, no, that seems too out there, and the person hasn't been specific? What do you do?
Again, it's something that we can only ever be a really gentle guide on.
Yeah.
I have offered the option for just setting up a vigil where some members of the family might, you know, tend to and spend time with. Other members of the family respectfully won't. But I guess, look, family dynamics, let's face it, there's no two families alike in all of the world. Can I say, though, that it's not uncommon for there to be a division in terms of because, you know, what you experience, Katrina, is still what I would call slightly left of centre for the everyday norm that's happening in Australia right now.
Yeah.
So I guess it was particularly beautiful in your family that, as you said, everybody was on board. And of course, that happens in many other families too. But I almost think it's more common for families to be a little bit, gee, I don't know about this,
Like,
you know?
oh, I don't even know how to do that. Like, what does that, what do you mean?
Exactly. And all that I would say is, more commonly than not, particularly, and I'm now referring to, I can visually picture a number of families in the funeral home up north that I spoke about, Paperbark, where we have a vigil space there that's particularly beautiful.
Yeah.
So what we often do is, if there's people that are like, gee, I just don't know about this,
Yeah.
we might just gently suggest, if they feel to come along, but they do not have to commit to being in the same space.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say, though, it's so beautifully surprising that in the end, organically, once people get past that little bit of a precipice of actually walking into that space,
Yeah.
once they've had those few moments to adjust and they see that their person is simply their body and have taken their final exhale, it seems to become normalized quite quickly.
Yeah.
Now, again, it is not going to speak to everybody. And if you know in yourself it's a hard no, well, that's good that you know that.
Yeah.
If you're not sure, I always just gently encourage people either to sit with and feel into that, or give themselves the opportunity to go to the place where a vigil can be set up if you don't want in your own home, or perhaps it's not set up or it's a little bit too divisive.
Mm-hmm.
And just give yourself the opportunity to be with, knowing that you don't need to if when you get there you don't feel up to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did find, I mean, I don't know if people needed it. Maybe I was just over servicing, as I do. You know how some people are just like overachievers when they're stressed, and some people are just disappear and stop doing stuff altogether. Well, I just overfunction. I'm an overfunctioner. So yeah, I was doing a lot of preparing people to come and what they might see, and then would you like me to go in with you? And yeah, most people were, yeah.
And actually, something I have seen done at a few vigils in which you also did, Katrina, was write a beautiful little welcome. And,
Yeah.
you know, and I remember that you wrote, you know, what to expect and perhaps ways to be with mum or grandy or however, whatever your relationship was. And because I think often it's this fear of the unknown, isn't it? And we don't ever want to feel awkward. So sometimes, and a lot of us, me included, sometimes find it really hard just to be.
Yeah.
And so, you know, to offer some suggestions, you know, often just to sit and hold someone's hand, to sit and read them their favorite poem, to take in a photo album and actually look through it and, you know, talk to yourself or whoever else is there about those memories. You know, put some music on, put some favorite music on. You know, if there's a few of you there, all have a cheers. I mean, it really can be as party vibe to quite reflective to whatever it needs to be.
Yeah, whatever's like reflective of them in life.
Absolutely. And your relationship and how individual that was.
Yeah, yeah. So beautiful. So we've got this thing that's happening. So
Yes.
this event coming up, which we've put together out of this spirit of trying to bring the conversation to the table in a really matter-of-fact, fun way, called Death Over Drinks. You'll be there, Bern. I'll be there. Who else are we having? It's on the 14th of October at 5 p.m. at the Grain-Fed Brewery in Lambton.
Yes.
I will make sure that I put a link to buy your ticket in the comments when I post this video. Who else are we going to have there talking about stuff?
So, well, in terms of our sort of little committee, we've got Ruth Boydell, who is I hope this is okay to say, I sort of think of Ruth as like the grandmother of doulas in Newcastle. And
I've heard people say that too. She's phenomenal.
she's sort of this heart-giving, beautiful woman that just trains and gives and just has so much experience in end of life. So Ruth can speak on so many topics. We also have a beautiful gentleman by the name of John Bolton. John is a retired doctor. He's actually was a professor of pediatrics. And he will actually be talking us through a very intimate experience that he had of his wife's VAD, or voluntary assisted dying journey. Which I think, VAD is really in the spotlight, or has been for the last sort of couple of years. So I think that if that's something that is on anyone's radar or that they would like to know more about, there's a few of us who understand the process and know of it. But heavens, there's nothing like someone actually talking through their journey of their beloved. So I think that'll be quite special. Who else have we got? We've got Paulina, who is a celebrant. And who else?
I'll be there talking about my experience. You'll be there talking about your endless knowledge of body care.
And Kirsty, who is another end-of-life doula. And we've got Jay, who is going to in pastoral care. And also Jess from the Dungog Death Collective. And she, she's hilarious and has been in this realm and comes from a massive family and has got lots of experience in end-of-life as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So anybody watching, if you're really thinking, I want to know more about this, or, bring along a friend who's like-minded, and, we want to be prepared. It's such a beautiful gift to, I think, be prepared for your own death. Should people be left behind to do what they need to do to care for you, it's such a beautiful thing to do for other people, and also to be prepared to look after the ones that you love. Yeah.
It is the biggest gift I think you can ever leave your loved ones, is to have your house in order and actually to be prepared. Yeah,
it really is. Well, I certainly feel I'm much more prepared for, should I have to do it again anytime soon, knowing that I am connected to you and the Newcastle Compassionate Communities, and I know I'll be able to find the people that I need, and I want other people to have that too. So thank you, Bern, again.
Thank you, Katrina, for having me. And hopefully, whoever's watching, hopefully we will see you on the 14th of October. And we're also running a whole series of events. So if we don't see you at that one, hopefully we'll catch you in another one.
There'll be more to come. That's right. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Toodaloo. Bye.